So this week I watched a whole lot of crazy films. There's cult films, horror films, fantasy, like dark fantasy horror films, and just so much more. Stuff that you probably don't even know about, so let's get into it. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing my weekly watch list, which, for those of you who are new here, well, welcome. This is our weekly watch list that we do every week to kind of go over some of the movies that I might have seen that you might want to see. Now, most of the time, these are not 10s out of 10s, okay? But these are like those hidden gems between, 6 and 8, depending whatever I got available. Sometimes I take a risk and watch them. Sometimes I may not like them, but I think you might want to watch them. It's just one of those things that I like to get all these underground films and share them with you guys so that you might find something that might be one of your favorite movies. Because no matter how much I feel about a certain movie, it's always going to be someone else's favorite movie. So grab your pens, write down all this stuff, or better yet, I will always tell you where you can watch these online so that you can watch them for yourself, or where you can pick them up physically to add them to your own collection, or just wish listed on Amazon. All of the links and everything will be down below. Without further ado, let's get into this week's weekly watch list.
Please believe me.
First up, we have a brand new film that came out on Screenbox. I saw it. I had to fire up a new subscription to try to get this movie because I was so curious as to what it was. And that is Project MKHEXE. So Project MK as in like MK Ultra, Hex. This is a new movie that just came out on Screenbox. It is a sort of, I would say, like a modern sci-fi horror movie that is dealing with like higher levels of consciousness and like hidden creatures from beyond. Very Lovecraftian in its nature. And so I was like all aboard for that. So this movie is about two brothers that were very different from one another. And one of them actually ends up committing unalivement. And they basically are questioning whether this is actually him doing it and why he did it, because there was no signs of him even wanting to do it. And the more he digs to find out why this happened, he finds out that his brother had a fixation with a non-existent urban legend that is actually about a failed government mind control experiment called Project MKHEXE. His brother and a friend team up together to get into this entangled story that is done in a found footage style way to make the movie feel more authentic. It's kind of like part documentary in the beginning, and it ends up being what happened to his brother by the end of the movie kind of thing. Now, this is by director Gerald Robert Waddell, who this is his first feature film. He actually only did a short film before this, and this is his new one. Now, I wasn't 100% on board with this movie, but I think a lot of people will be. So I wanted to bring it up to your attention because I think it might be something that you guys might like. You may be up higher or lower depending on it, because found footage is just one of those things where I could literally have the same taste as my friend and they will dislike this movie because I liked it, or the other way around. It's just one of those things. This one is a found footage, dimensional, Lovecraftian style horror that deals with like beings beyond the television and like mind control and all this other stuff. So it's pretty interesting. It really has some pretty great lore, like building and backstory, and like all the documents and all the pictures and like stuff that they use to make the film feel more authentic. The acting for me didn't really come across as very believable, but story-wise, it was interesting enough that I could suspend my disbelief and not have to worry about it, and that's a big deal. Like, if the story's good, I can suspend that and not worry about it so much. Some people may feel the opposite, but I personally was not into the acting so much. But it does go some pretty crazy places, and there's a lot of really interesting things that are happening in the movie. And I want to be completely clear, this is definitely not a movie that is creature-centric, practical effects, nightmarish creatures all over the screen or anything like that. It's more intended. There's a lot of visual effects on the screen that deal with like a modern technology that you know, this story kind of surrounds about this technology. Its intention is to sweep you up in this sort of ecstatic energy that's like pulling you closer and closer to solving this massive riddle. It does not have a huge budget, but it does a lot with very little, so I have to give it credit where credit's due. It just didn't give me the vibes that I wanted. Like for me, a movie that really blew me up when I first saw it was like Pi. You remember that movie Pi, where the guy's trying to do all this math to like figure out the universe, and it's really intense, and I was like so into it. I really wanted that level in this movie, and I just didn't get it like I wanted to, but that doesn't mean it might not be different for you guys. So it just didn't work for me like I wanted it to. Sometimes that happens because it just seemed like the perfect recipe for me to watch in a film, but I still enjoyed it, and I would give it a 6 out of 10. And I think some people could be really high on that and maybe even love this film more than me. I think it's worth at least checking out. You can watch it on Screenbox or VOD. You can rent it on digital right now. So check it out if you find that interesting.
In your destruction.
Up next, we have A Knight's War. Now, this is a movie that MVD Entertainment sent out to me. It's a co-op with Dread Central, and of course Epic Pictures, who put this movie out. It is a very, very low budget, very artistic, and very well decorated, and like the art design and everything is really good in this dark fantasy horror film where there's knights, witches, gore and blood, and a very condensed story about a guy going into hell to basically kill off a bunch of demons. As cool as that may sound, you still have to taper your expectations a little bit about this one, but I still am very impressed with what they did with so little. Obviously, this is going to be no Kroll, but I think the art design and what they do in this film really works. It's actually directed by Matthew Ninabar, who is the guy who played Psycho Gorman in Steven Kostanski's Psycho Gorman film. It's essentially about a very brave knight who braves a deadly realm to save the chosen one's soul. He has a sort of vision that his brother and him are sharing, these dreams about this girl who cannot be burned with fire, and she's to save everyone. He gets plunged into hell and faces witches, demons, and like brutal foes, tons of blood, a lot of dialogue, but very cool visuals in this small budget indie film. It was literally made in his backyard, but man, it gets really dark, and some of the lore building in this is actually really good. It is going to be a little bit on the boring side to those who don't like that old English kind of style, you know, vibe. It definitely has that kind of old style, and to me, it sounds like great because I think the acting is actually pretty decent in this film. It's not the best acting I've ever seen, but it's definitely far from below average or anything. This is above average acting in a dark fantasy setting with the right words and writing. I think Matt did a really good job with the writing in this. The story and the way that they have to defeat each of these demons in a way kind of reminds me of like the Dark Souls games, because there's like a specific way and an order that you have to kill these big bosses that you fight in the game, and they kind of do the same thing with this. In the movie, this brave knight actually goes and makes a deal with one of the demons to get 100 souls gem, where he can basically die repeatedly until the gem is spent, and then he dies permanently. But he can kind of just keep fighting these demons over and over to figure out what the best way to defeat them is. And it's actually kind of cool. That's why I say it's got like this Dark Souls kind of thing, because in that game you die a lot and you come back at one of the firesides and have to fight him again. He's dealing with this woman who is not exactly on board with his vision and what he wants to do, so there's some back and forth along with all these different lords that he has to fight, or demons in hell. Again, this is a condensed small indie film. It's not going to be your $120 million dark fantasy movie. So just keep that in mind and know that there is some heavy spots of dialogue which some people might find boring. I would love to see what he could do with a lot more money, because this looks really good. While I was watching it, I was actually thinking about stuff like they do in Psycho Goreman, where they'll do like a little model like they did in the 80s of like this castle or something like that, and then they'll kind of scan the camera around it to make it look like that's the setting. Those are just cheap ways that they were able to do it. They actually went to some pretty cold and like torturous conditions out in the middle of Canada in like Alberta and Ontario, and it was cold as hell, and these people really suffered for this movie. But I would say out of all of it, I think it's a pretty entertaining film, although some people are going to need to set their expectations a little bit lower. I think it's about a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. I was very impressed with this, and I could watch it again. Some people they think it's the worst movie that's ever been made. If you go to IMDb, it's ridiculous. I really enjoyed the film. I think if you check it out, you might actually find a film that you like. Currently, you can rent this for like $5.99 to watch, or you can pick it up from MVD Entertainment, or I'll put a link down for you to wish list this on your Amazon wish list. So thank you, MVD, for sending this out to me. I actually quite enjoyed it. Up next, we have Ninja Terminator. Now, this is the reverse cover. There's actually another one inside that you can see. That's the actual cover that they use, but I kind of like the old cover of this wacky, wild film that I just watched. Essentially, this is a old Hong Kong film doing ninjas with Americans and Chinese people, and like just, it's bananas, man. Like there is so many crazy, inexplicable things that happen in this film that it is a so bad it's good film in a way, but I tend to like mine a little bit more on the nose and be a little bit more silly. But this does have some goods in it that I think a lot of you guys might actually like. This story is kind of all over the place and doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Essentially, there are 3 martial arts students at this school that are in search for the golden ninja warrior statue. It grants the people who have it special powers, basically turn their skin to metal, I think. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. There's a right arm, a left arm, and then of course the body, and you can have all 3 and be invincible. Now, this was directed by Godfrey Ho, who did many films in Hong Kong, a lot of ninja films especially. He considers himself a working director and not so much an art house director, which some of the extras in this were really interesting because he talks about why he did things in the movie that were so inexplicable. There's a toy robot in this movie that basically hand delivers tapes to every one of the ninjas in like some sort of secret way. It's ridiculous. There's a scene where there's a guy, one of the ninjas, who's ultimately very serious, who's played by Richard Harrison. If you see up here, he's in the movie. He's the guy in the camo ninja outfit. He's going hunting. Answers his phone. That is a Garfield phone. Yes, they didn't get sued for this because this is Hong Kong. They could get away with whatever the hell they wanted to. There's also just a ton of different things. One of the end scenes of this movie has a guy just exploding for no reason.
No reason.
And, you know, basically throughout the whole movie, these guys, they steal the idol, split off into 3 directions, and then they try to recollect it, or they get it stolen back from them. And then there's just 3 guys fighting against all these other ones until the final battle where the 3 guys all meet up together and fight each other. It's a interesting story that can be a little boring, but the action is high flying and people jumping in the air. A lot of fist fighting and sword fighting in this movie. It's definitely not the craziest so bad it's good film I've seen. A little bit on the boring side, but there is some pretty fun things to be had in this one. And this was actually put out by Neon Eagle Films, and I think distributed by Cauldron Films. So you can pick this up on MVD or them, or I'll put a link down below for the Amazon on wish list. So if you're thinking about getting this in the future, you can just add it to your wish list and pick it up later. This is the re-release. They had another one where it came with another movie. That was a limited edition. This is the single standard edition. But yeah, I would have to give this one a 5 out of 10. Unfortunately, not the best movie I've seen, in this thing, but I'm definitely glad to have it. And I had a laugh or two in the movie while watching it. Up next, we have SiREN Unrated, which I picked this up on DVD for myself on Amazon because it was like $5, I think, on sale, and it was on a flash sale, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get it. The reason I wanted to get this, if you ever saw the movie VHS, the anthology, this is a continuation of the story from the first segment of the very first VHS called Amateur Night, where this girl is like, I like you. And then things unfold where it turns into a really bad situation. I mean, as you can see here, things are a little darker than they might appear. Now, you can rent this one online or pick up a DVD unrated. I don't even know if the unrated is online, so this is about a bachelor party, a guy who is going to be having his wedding the next day, wrapped up in his friends taking him out for the night to a stripper club that turns out to be kind of crappy. And while there, they meet a mustachioed guy there who says, hey, you know what? I can take you to one of the best places in town. You'll never forget the night you have here. And well, that sure is true, because they go there and get a secret viewing and hang out at this mansion in the middle of nowhere, and things go very poorly when he meets a girl who is a siren. You're gonna have to taper your expectations. I think that the Amateur Night found footage clip from VHS is probably better than this one. I think it's far more scarier, far more intense, while this one kind of like flails around a little bit, has a little too much grandiose stuff in it. I know they wanted to kind of build up the lore on the backstory of this character, but it really just didn't work for me as well as I wanted it to. But some of the elements in the film, like some of the gore moments and some of the things that we got to see, are interesting enough to want to see just on the character of this girl by itself. And so that's why I was like, I think I should tell these guys about it because I think they might like it. Now, this director, Greg Bishop, I've talked about on one of my weekly watch lists before. He did the movie The Other Side, which is another movie you can pick up for like $5. It was an interesting movie, definitely on the sillier side, even though I actually enjoyed that one a little bit more than this one. David Bruckner, though, who did, the original Amateur Night, he was a big part of that. He actually did a lot of work on this one. And David Bruckner is one of the 3 directors that did The Signal from 2006 or 2007 that I talk about all the time. I had to watch this. I wasn't exactly blown away by it. It's got the kind of like set and design and kind of acting that I would expect from like a little bit better than a Full Moon movie, which no shade thrown at Full Moon. It's just got that vibe about it, Like this feels like a kind of Tales from the Crypt story, element where there's a little bit of tongue-in-cheek humor mixed in with it, but a little bit of schlocky acting. The acting is not so good in this one, but you'll see some familiar faces in it. Now, SiREN isn't a perfect film. It definitely does not perform very well. If you did like the short, I definitely recommend you watching it. I would give this about a 5.5 out of 10. It kind of leans 6, but you'll see what I mean by the acting and makes you want to suspend your disbelief in many places. Not in the fun way either, necessarily. But I wanted to at least give it a 5.5 because it did hold my interest to the end, and there's a couple of moments in the film that I really did like. If you're curious about what the backstory of that girl in that short, the very first short from VHS was, I highly recommend at least watching this. You might like it more than me, but just keep your expectations a little bit low. Like I said, you can rent this online. I don't know if it's unrated, or you can pick it up for $5 on DVD. Might as well just buy it on DVD and save it in your collection. Links down below.
Nothing can stop them. It's a power you can't imagine.
Up next, and last but not least, we have The Believers from 1986. Now, this is one that's up on Prime Video, Tubi, and MGM Plus. I guess they have a service. I didn't even know. This is a movie that it's a big budget movie, okay? This is with Martin Sheen, Helen Shaver, Robert Loggia, Richard Masur, and just so many other people that are in this movie. It's directed by John Schlesinger, who did Midnight Cowboy, Marathon Man, and Pacific Heights. So he's done a lot of big films, and it's essentially about Cal Jameson, played by Martin Sheen, who is a police psychologist. He basically handles the officers' cases when they've gone and seen something that they can't get over, and he kind of helps them through their problems. Something happens where some kids start getting carved up under some black magic, and he doesn't know exactly how to handle it, and things are really bad, and the cop disappears because he's losing his mind. The psychologist is forced to deal with a series of ritualistic murders and a malevolent cult that is very reminiscent of something like Serpent in the Rainbow. It feels very much like that, but it is very different in a lot of ways. I don't want to spoil it, but there's an electrocution in the very beginning of this movie that gets the movie like kicked off to like 10 like instantly, and it definitely captures your attention because it happens right in front of a child, and so it's like really intense and fucked up. But after that, there are some other occurrences with a lot of the different cast who get close to this black magic. There's Santeria, and then there's Brujeria. The black magic, they put curses on people, and bad, messed up kind of practical effects, crazy things happen to them, including one that is kind of an urban legend about a big cyst on the face. I'll let you figure that one out. But yeah, I actually really kind of like this movie. It's not Serpent in the Rainbow, a much better film overall, even though that movie can get a little schlocky too, about people coming back from the dead based on a real thing, but they twist it a little bit. Same thing happens with this one. It's, you know, kind of riding the line of a crime drama mixed with like a horror, voodoo, black magic kind of brujeria type thing, and it's done in a very serious way. Like Martin Sheen does a pretty damn good job in this film. His son gets wrapped up in it, and it goes to some pretty weird places by the end of the movie. I'd give this one a 7, maybe a 6.5 out of 10. I lean 7. It's definitely around that area. It's not a perfect film, but it's one that you might want to check out for yourself. If you like cults, brujeria, black magic, and crime dramas, this has got a mix of it all right there for you. So, and you can check it out right now on the Prime Video for your subscription in Tubi and MGM, or you can pick up a copy on Blu-ray with the link down below. But yeah, that's it, guys. That's everything that I watched this week for my weekly watch list. As you can tell, I don't just stick to like one type of like subgenre. I like to watch a myriad of different things. So if you like watching videos where you can find an array of like cult and like just an array of different films that you've never heard of, well, this is your weekly thing that we do hopefully on every Monday. I'm trying to go for Monday. It's just I get busy and things get hard to do. So let me know which one of the movies that you think you might want to check out for yourself. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time for a brand new weekly watch list. More on the way for the rest of the week. We got a ton of stuff coming out, so stick around. But thanks for coming by, and as always, long live the void.